Okay, for Flexy Bendy number 13, we're going to take a pause from the hip mobility drills done on the floor, and we're going to work on our glute flexibility as well as external rotation of the hips by using the wall with the figure 4 stretch. This is because if you have found that as you're trying to do the hip mobility drills on the floor, which focuses on the internal and external rotation through the hip socket, if you find that your outer glutes is a restriction for you, this is something that you can do pretty much daily, especially you could do this in bed if your bed is right up against that wall, and be, working on that on the side. We have a very intentional sequence here, so you could follow along, but it's not going to be real time because I'm just going to show you like one round on each side. Ideally, you would do 3 sets of each exercise for one full round, and I'm only going to show you 1 set because of time restrictions, but you should try this for the 1 set so you get an idea of what you should be feeling. If you don't know already, we spend a lot of time oftentimes in just the setup, because that setup is one of the most important things, because that's your home base, that's your that's kind of your metric that you're going to come back to as you feel the effects of each set that you go through. So if you do it in bed in the morning, then you'll be done with. Okay. All right. So this setup here, we're going to take our feet right up against that wall. So you could do it bare feet, and my head's gonna get cut off here probably, but oh well, right? Oh, and by the way, we had a very, very short fall and winter apparently, because it's summer again. I don't know, it's 90s yesterday and today. It's very hot. All right, so we'll take our setup, and we are not trying to get into 90-90 here. Your setup will be however far your hips need to be away from that wall, so that when you put your feet up against that wall to about 90-90 here, and you cross one leg over into that figure 4 stretch, that you're not overstretching. So you should feel a slight stretch, but you should be in a position here where you feel like you can stay here for a long time without causing too much stress. Okay, so find that spot for you. At which point, I'm going to just give you a little tip on how to set up that ankle. So you don't want it too down, you don't want it mid-thigh, you don't want it right on your knees, and you don't want that ankle joint to be right on the middle of your thigh, because that would be digging in. So just have the ankle joint right lined up to the outside of your thigh, right underneath the knees. Okay, so right here, if whatever leg is bent across that leg, hip and glute is what we're working on for the glute stretch and the external rotation of that hip socket. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just relax into this position, especially your shoulders, your upper back, your mid back being nice and flat against that floor. Your lower back should already be fairly flat, or that you don't have a overarching of the lumbar spine by way of the fact that we have one knee crossed over. That's pressing our lower back down as it is. What we don't want to do is, as we're doing the drill, end up pressing so much into that lower back that we bring ourselves up into a posterior tilt. No, we want the hips to be flat remain on the ground. Okay, you're going to use your breath here a lot. Okay, so anytime we have a pause, that's where you would take a couple of nice deep breaths as you feel around what's happening, what's changing. You should also make sure that you match your relaxation at the end of each pose with a nice big exhale. All right, so first thing we're going to do is, here's the first drill. We're going to take this ankle and drive into that thigh as if you're driving then that leg into the wall. Okay, we're going to use 20-second 20-second increments for throughout this whole drill, just to make it easy. In this case, we're going to increase that pressure. We're not doing it yet. We're going to increase that pressure for 10 seconds, and then we're going to hold it at the top of that pressure, and then for 10 seconds before we relax. Now, this is one of those situations where I cannot see how hard you're working. It's all depending on your sensation. So your driving factor will be this ankle. Where it's driving from will be your outer glute. So here we go. We're going to press, and we're going to keep pressing, and we're going to keep increasing that tension and increasing that contraction, driving in through your own thigh with your own ankles and ramping it up, okay, progressively versus relaxing and contracting and relaxing. This is full on increasing contraction. At the top, you're going to hold it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then relax. And you should have taken an inhale so that you could completely exhale here. Hold it for 2 to 3 breaths. Feel any changes in sensation before we move on. The second drill, and you would do this 2 more times on your own. Second drill is where we're going to take our ankle off that knee, okay? So if you feel like that's impossible, you're probably at your end range already, and the focus would be to act as if, okay? If you can pull it off, okay, you could either pull it off by assist and then let go, okay, and you'll feel your inner thigh here engaging as well, or you could take that foot off the wall to drive the entire leg towards you, and then keep this as is while that foot drives back. Okay, see that? It forces you into that position, and you hold this for 10 seconds before you relax. Okay, so that was number 2. Take a couple breaths, repeat the sequence, and repeat this drill 2 times. Last drill, we're going to take now a physical hold of the ankle here from the bottom, top, whatever's comfortable for you. The other hand is going to drive the knee down. So knee goes down and the ankle goes towards you, okay? So you want to feel, again, all around the glutes and hip socket here, okay? You should not feel any pinching in your actual hip flexor area. Okay, so you hold this for about 10 to 20 seconds. You would relax it, breathe into it, do that again for 2 times. So that would be 3 drills on one side before you switch over and do the other side. Okay, so you really only need to do 1 round on each side. Just make sure you're doing about 2 to 3 sets for each drill. So it should take you about 7 to 8 minutes and per side max. Okay, so you could probably do the whole thing in about 10 minutes if you're not, stopping and talking and whatever, like what's going on here. I'm actually just going to show you that one side. In that one side was full. This side, I'll just run through it super quickly. On the other side for me. Okay, so you get a different angle here. Okay, there. We're going to set up. First thing is driving that knee. After we're in position, we're going to drive this knee, drive that ankle into that knee. Harder, 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 and hardest. Okay, trying to feel everything working from your glutes. Then you would relax. That's one drill. The second one was to take that ankle off. Okay, so you could drive that foot off that wall, then drive it back and hold it. Remember, each side is different, okay? So you'll bring your abs into this, you'll bring your inner thighs into this, okay? What we're not doing is lifting up the pelvis, okay? That pelvis needs to stay down. I want that focus to be all around here, or the source of that movement to be here. Relax into that, do 2 more times. Then finally, we're gonna take that hand drive the knee away from you as you pull the ankle up towards you, and hold that for 20 seconds, and then relax, and then do that for 2 more times. Shaking, extreme discomfort, that's all good and fine for these hip drills, remember. And then finally, if that gets, that's a little bit tiring, you could do just the feel good. You could bring yourself closer to that wall and just lock it in, okay? Just make it a completely passive hold. Let this completely sink down and let it be a passive hold, just so that it feels good. Or you could thread through and hold it here, okay? Both are passive. Both should feel really good. And there's your hip sequence. So this could be done, like I said, daily, and you should feel, even if you don't go to like the absolute max, as long as you're doing a portion of isometric work that's worked into this whole flexibility routine, then that should help tremendously. And then you won't have the hip or the glute flexibility as a restriction when you're working on the internal external rotation of the hip that we're sequencing on the floor. So at least it's one restriction will be out. The other restriction, remember, could be coming from your back flexibility, and that will be just another section we'll get to, hopefully. All right, give it a go.